Phillies are the best team in baseball, but they went away for about a month there. Their bullpen was terrible, but it's a good bullpen. It's going to come back. Their starting pitching, when they're right, can match up with anyone, and I love the way they swing the bats. I love the camaraderie in the room. So a lot of things have to happen first, but the Phillies are still a very dangerous team.
Tim Kirkjian said that. Are the Phillies still the best team? He said, look, their bullpen, it's a very good bullpen. It needs to come back. We'll get into the bullpen, and is there a piece out there that could help the Phillies bullpen? That's the basis of our conversation in the mailbag today with 97.3 ESPN.com's Phillies insider Frank Klose, who joins us now on the Sports Bash as we get into the dog days of summer. We're about to finish the dog days. A little chilly outside. It feels like October baseball is getting near. What's going on, Frank?
Not much, Mike. How are you?
All is well, bud. And, the Phillies, a lot of conversation over the weekend. They lose that game. They took 3 out of 4 against Washington, but it's always the loss that everybody points at. And I know that's the basis of some of the questions inside the mailbag. But let's start with your opinion on how important this series is down in Atlanta. Then they go to Kansas City, Houston, and then Atlanta again. You've got 7 games with Atlanta before the month of September gets here.
Yeah, I think these are very, very important. And the Braves, let's face it, they've been kind of struggling along. Many major injuries. I mean, the Phillies had their share for a while, but the Phillies are mostly healthy at this point. The Braves are still a little bit down. They're not out, and I think it's time for the Phillies to put them out. When I think about the Phillies team the last several weeks, I took my daughter to see that Inside Out 2 movie, right? And one of the characters is named Ennui. It's almost like they got bored because they had such a big lead and the sense of urgency went away. Well, I think now is the time to make that sense of urgency happen and really to go after the Braves. You want to just knock the Braves out this series. And so it's not even a consideration that they might get back into this.
Yeah, they'll play tonight. And, of course, the Phillies and the Braves are getting ready for 7 games in the month of August, 3 tonight out in Atlanta and then 4 up here in Philly. That could help decide. The Phillies own a 7-game lead in the division over Atlanta. More on that. Let's get into the mailbag tonight. By the way, for tonight's matchup for the Phillies and the Braves, you've got Zach Wheeler and Reynaldo Lopez. So 2 good ones going today. Lopez actually an ERA almost under 2 right now, so might take the under in the game tonight. Let's go to the mailbag questions, and I know a lot of people, we were talking about it yesterday. Dan's one of them. He wants to know, Frank, would you have hit Harper Realmuto in that 9th inning? A lot of people are mad about what happened there. Kind of give us your assertion of that whole situation.
I would not hit them there. I mean, look, this is a long season. We just spoke about how important these games against the Braves are that are coming up right now. And if you're going to give Bryce Harper a day off, knowing you've got the day off after, knowing that he needs to get the rest so that he can go to work against the Braves, you got to commit to that day of rest. JT Realmuto, how many times have we talked about JT getting banged up from year to year? Certainly this year he spent that time on the injured list. You want JT Realmuto firing on all cylinders during these important games. So I think if you committed to those days off for those players, you got to just let them have it. I mean, I feel like there's the sense of urgency every night, right? If you're watching the team on a night-to-night basis, you want them to win every single night. Yeah, of course you want to win every night. But the manager's also got to try to balance the greater season, and those days off, I think, are very, very important for both those players. I mean, how many nights does Bryce Harper get off in a season, right? This is a rarity, right? So I don't want to see it, throw him out there, and then it's not like he got the time off that he was expecting, and then maybe there's a trickle-down effect. But, to me, if you just won 4 in a row, you're taking the series from the Nationals, you're starting Taijuan Walker, which I don't know. We knew that was going to be a tougher one for them to win anyway. I have no problem with letting Cal Stevenson and Garrett Stubbs bat there because, too, if they come up big, it's another feel-good story for the year. But let's be honest, they had 9 innings to score more than 4 runs, right? Not just that one. So I think that as a whole, the team, maybe could have eked out a couple extra runs, but I don't worry so much about making sure that those 2 players who are key players have that day off with the day off after because the Phillies absolutely need them in this time coming up.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are mad about it. The way I look at it like this is, Frank, would I hit Harper and Real Muto? Of course, I would rather those guys hit. I also don't look at that as a negative against Rob Thompson. Of course, Thompson would hit Harper over Cal Stevenson and Real Muto over Stubbs, but likely was told before the game, or they all collaborated, you're getting the day off. That decision never comes up in a playoff game. People are acting like Thompson's inept because he didn't make the move there. Of course he's going to hit Harper over Stevenson, but that decision will never come up in a playoff game. Therefore, I don't question Thompson's inability to make the decision. I just think it was, you're off today, you're not playing.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%, right? The playoffs, you put your best players out there, period. I mean, why not ask why Taijuan Walker started and not Zach Wheeler on 3 days rest, right? Zach Wheeler's better than Taijuan Walker, right? No, you gotta focus on the bigger picture. You gotta space things out. Yeah, not happening in a playoff game, but I think that is a very reasonable thing to do, is to give your star players a little extended rest ahead of such an important stretch like this one right now that we just talked about.
Yeah, by the way, the Phillies open up this series with Atlanta. Their next day off here, they got a stretch of games coming up with Atlanta. They'll play straight through the 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 1. They will not have a day off until September the 2nd. So I would imagine you're going to see Bryce Harper play straight through all the way through this month. And then they get to September. They go Toronto, Miami, Tampa, New York to start the month off there. That's probably the next time you see Bryce Harper get a day here. So they got a stretch of about 15 straight days where there is no days off for the Phils. All right, Glenn has an interesting question. Why'd the Phillies demote Tyler Phillips? He had won a bunch of games, pitched well at times. They don't seem to have anybody really to replace him, so what's the plan there?
Well, I think you've got two things at work here. One simply was, let's face it, Phillips struggled in the month of August after having a very nice July, right? That complete game against the Cleveland Guardians really kind of was his signature moment on this team. But, I think the Phillies decided that, what, they can, thanks to the day off, and then we saw them do that, right? Like today would have been the Tyler Phillips start. Well, it's going to be Zach Wheeler instead because they had a day off yesterday. So they can move Wheeler up to the first game of the series against the Braves, a very important game against the Braves, right? Against Lopez, right? A very important matchup. Then tomorrow, Aaron Nola on regular rest can pitch against Max Fried. And then Thursday, they have a TBD, but I think that the Phillies can also bring back Christopher Sanchez on regular rest if they choose. They might decide, if they're happy with how the beginning of the series goes, maybe they make it a bullpen game that day. But I think the Phillies, in some respects, really wanted their big guns up against Atlanta. And so if you've got that opportunity to do that, then you want to have your bullpen perhaps be as ready to go. And, Tyler Gilbert's another left-handed arm against some of the tough lefties in the Atlanta lineup. So if the Phillies do have to go to a bullpen game on the third game, you can stack up your lefties. You got Gilbert, who can give you a couple innings. Banks, when they acquired him, said he could give a couple innings at a time. Then Strom's there, Alvarado's there. They can put that together and make a nice matchup if they decided that they needed to do that. And so that's part of it. The other part is, Ranger Suarez is getting close to rejoining the Phillies. They might only need one turn through the rotation if all goes well, or they need to kind of piece it together. And so I think they were willing to do that in this situation. And Suarez, he pitched a simulated game again over the weekend. He's probably going to make a rehab start later on this week. And then that could make him ready to rejoin the rotation the next time the slot comes up, if all goes well. So I think the Phillies were really willing to roll the dice there a little bit. But yeah, I think a lot of it too is keeping those fresh arms in the bullpen, extra arms in the bullpen, because this is going to be a tough series.
No doubt. Real quick, too, by the way, some news from the Phillies about a half hour ago. Austin Hayes, he will begin a rehab assignment tonight. I want to get your thoughts on that. Bob Wankel was on with me yesterday. He thinks that Weston Wilson could be playing left field and Hayes could move over to center field, and that could be something that we see more often as this season goes on. Do you think that they might start phasing out Rojas and using Hayes as the center fielder and Wilson getting more time in left field?
They could. I mean, he does have a lot of experience in center field. If you look at his career with Baltimore, he did get a number of games in center field, not the bulk of his games there. You know, if you look at his career, 70 games in center field, and whereas he's got 384 in left and 137 in right. So I think you can do it. I don't think anybody has ever decided he's a pure center fielder, but I think that's something that they could do if they need to face a tough lefty and they really want those bats in the lineup. You know, you can always bring in some defense later on in the game if you need to, but you know, I really like that they're actually using the rehab assignments this time. Usually they've been skipping over them lately, but you know, I think it's a situation where if his timing looks good tonight, I wouldn't be shocked if he's even down in Atlanta tomorrow to face Max Fried. But I think he will be a welcome addition back to the lineup because you know, you saw a little bit about what Weston Wilson can do. Having those two bats, if they're both performing in the same lineup, would indeed be helpful. But if I was going to do that, I would make sure that there's some defense later on in the game once they get a lead.
All right, here's an interesting one. I talked about this back in the 2 o'clock hour about an hour ago. Earlier today, the Cubs released former Phillies closer Hector Neris. Now, he performed his best when he was not the closer. In fact, the last 2 years in Houston, he was very good. Last year, he was really good. 2022, he pitched in that World Series and got some key outs in that World Series. He went to Chicago, miscasted as a closer again. Good year, not a great year. They released him not because of performance, more because of salary purposes here. So, one of our listeners and readers of the mailbag, Dave, wants to know, would you sign Hector Neris for this Phillies bullpen?
In a word, yes. I think what it comes down to is he better than the worst arm in your bullpen at the moment? And, you know, if you look at the Phillies bullpen, there are three that are kind of on the bubble, right? Tyler Gilbert, who I just mentioned, you know, just called up, you know, has pitched okay at times in the major leagues, but for the most part, he has not pitched in any stellar way. He does have a no-hitter under his belt, actually, for the Diamondbacks, but that you have him there on the roster. You have Jose Ruiz, who's been pretty decent. His ERA is in the high threes. You know, he's had some really good moments for this Phillies team. And then you also have Max Lazar, who just came up, three scoreless appearances so far in the major leagues. But would you rather have a reliable veteran arm in your bullpen over Max Lazar? I might do that. So I think, you know, especially since you can't add anybody else at this point because of the trade deadline being final, there are no more waiver trades to be made. So, you know, it's really hard to add any type of talent. So I think he's someone worth giving a chance. You know, Neris has been kind of up and down. If you look at his splits throughout the season, he's had a couple of really good months, and he's had a couple of months in which he struggled. August is one of the ones he struggled a little bit, but you know, I think if you look at his stats overall, you know, still ERA under 4, did very well, I would say much better away from Wrigley Field than at Wrigley Field. If you look at his splits there between home and on the road, his stats favor being away from Wrigley Field. You know, and I think that you know, someone like him, I think there'll be a lot of interest in him because let's face it, who doesn't need bullpen help in Major League Baseball? And you know, maybe the Phillies have a better shot because he's familiar with Philadelphia and liked his time in Philadelphia. So never got to win with them in Philadelphia, but because he was already on his way to Houston before the Phillies started to get really good again. So I think they have a shot at him. I think that you know, he's better than some that they have. I wouldn't hesitate to take a chance on him if they can sign him. You know, but at the end of the day, he'll probably have a bunch of options and he'll pick whatever he thinks he fits in best.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you said in a word, yes, I agree. I think, you know, he could really replace the Sir Anthony Dominguez role as the right-handed guy that pitches maybe in the 6th inning earlier on in game. I even think he could be a guy to give Jeff Hoffman a little bit of a break down the stretch here because he has a guy who can pitch in higher leverage situations. Do you want Neris to be your everyday closer? No. But can he pitch an 8th inning here and there and give Hoffman a little bit of a break? I think it makes a lot of sense. He's been pretty good this year. He's got postseason experience and obviously knows some of the guys being here for 8 seasons. Look, Neris pitched his best in Philly when he was not the closer, so he's not a closer. You don't say, hey, we're bringing Neris in to close games out. That's when he struggled here in Philadelphia. But he was way better as a non-high leverage guy, and I think this team needs another right-handed arm in that pen.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, Estevez has been an extra arm, but you subtracted Dominguez as part of that equation, so it wasn't like you just straight added. You also had to give something up there. So yeah, I agree with you. He might fit in that Dominguez role better than Dominguez did, and just knowing Hector Neris.
Oh, Dominguez is pitching pretty well down in Baltimore.
Oh yeah, I say Soto
except
is
for
not,
last night.
so they got
except for last night.
Yeah, well, I think Dominguez is somebody Phillies fans will continue to root for down there. But I think he needed a fresh start, to be honest. But Hector Neris, I mean, he might get that fresh start. Knowing him enough and seeing him around, he's somebody I think who would be really happy in Philadelphia. And if you're happy at work, you probably perform better. I don't care what job you're doing, right? So I think he would be a nice fit there, and I think he might enjoy it. And so any of his rough patches, he did blow 5 saves this year. I mean, I think it was 5 out of 22 appearance opportunities he blew. So again, not in that role. Back in Philly, I think he could excel here.
Frank Klose is, of course, got the mailbag every Tuesday right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, there's Frank in the mailbag, of course, here on the Sports Bash.